So I'm going to invite our other speakers to join me on the podium, on the dais for the discussion. So Andres, Soroush, Dr. Breen, if you'd like to come up, and yeah, we'll have a chat. So I'll open it up to the floor in a minute because we're slightly shorter of time than planned. But one question I had to the speakers was about adoption. So just coming off Rand's presentation then, obviously heritage management plans have been advocated by the World Heritage Committee, but in many places haven't been adopted, and I know that there's now work underway to adopt them. But then to the other panelists, Amal and Heritage is a new technology, which you'll hope will be adopted widely. And similarly with the approaches to maritime archaeological documentation, the Mariamena project, you want this to be adopted similarly by various countries and practitioners in the region. So, question to all panelists, how do you encourage adoption of different technologies and techniques? And perhaps we'll start with you, Rand, since that was an important part of your presentation.
How do you repeat for me?
Question is, how do you encourage adoption of particular technologies or techniques, whether it's heritage management plans or Amal and heritage platforms or the approaches to maritime archaeological recording, which Dr. Breen mentioned?
I mean, for mine, it's not technological, I think, but I think if they see good examples, particularly in connection with digital documentation, if they see that that laser scan can help them better manage the site or identify issues, it can be adopted with good examples. I mean, I was thinking the other day, that maybe even, I mean, institutions like that are present here can even have small teams that as they go to these sites, they can also infuse this issue of management.
Yeah, for us, I think that adoption is a slightly different problem. You mentioned that it's not technological, it's more of a social problem, and I think that's the right way of thinking about it. You can build it, they say if you build it, they'll come, this doesn't end up always being true. I come from a perspective of a more, I come from the field of technology rather than the field of archaeology. And so I need you all to teach me about the archaeology. But from the technology perspective, what we try to do first is we try to have really small experiments that prove that a concept works. And once you prove that the concept works, then the only job is to get it to as many people as possible. So I feel like Amal is still in the stage where we're trying to find the right pieces and put them together in the exact right ways that the system actually works, and we can actually put this thing in the hands of someone who isn't savvy in terms of the field of archaeology, but can still do effective work. And once we can figure out that formula, then we can worry about adoption. But first we need something that works really well for everyone involved. That's sort of my perspective.
Yeah, so they don't get discouraged if it doesn't work well.
That's right. It's not their fault. It's our fault.
Dr. Breen.
Colin. For me, I guess most of my work is from sub-Saharan Africa, and it's not necessarily the issue with the technology and the management plan itself, it's the actual implementation and engagement. You know, most of this, because it's consultant-led or it's external, there's lots of money invested in this process, but it's moving beyond that. You know, every single World Heritage site across sub-Saharan Africa has had 2 or 3 decades of management plans. Has anything actually changed in any of them? Possibly not. So, you know, maybe we need to start moving beyond that Western paradigm of management-led approaches towards much more engaged work that guarantees the implementation and engagement with this process.
Absolutely. I just wanted to reiterate what my colleague mentioned with regards to adoption. It's really responsible adoption. We have an incredible distribution platform in the forms of these mobile app stores. The Google Play Store and the Apple App Store reach millions and millions of people instantly. I mean, you have on mobile phones games that launch sometimes in the morning, and then by the evening they're on the news and almost in everyone's pockets. So it's important to use those platforms with responsibility, and much like my colleague had mentioned, to make sure that we deploy what is going to be useful to the right audience. And one of the things that we did in doing that responsibly is not deploying freely to the App Store. We decided to do a more I guess a more staged rollout where we have an early access program. If you go to a mall.global, you'll see that you can join that early access program and we'll give you access to a mall. So it's not just going on the Apple App Store and searching for a mall. You actually fill out this form and we send you the guidelines on how to use the app, and then we actually give you the link to download and install the app on your phone. It's entirely accessible to everyone as well, making sure that we support more devices. That does help adoption as well, but more importantly, the responsible adoption is really important.
Thank you. And I'll open it up to questions from the audience. Does anybody have any questions? One at the back.
Yeah, about adoption, and I mean that was a great session, everybody. Thank you. And it's really so that the people can see that if they don't do it, they'll benefit. There will be a disbenefit. So it's. I remember when I was a regional director for English Heritage, and during the winter, because it rains in England apparently, cleaning out your gutters is really important. If you don't clean out your gutters, it's going to be worse than if you do. If you see what I mean. So it's making people realise that actually adopting it is good for them. And talking of which, last year I adopted Amal on my phone and got the beta thing on my iPhone, and I just had a look at it and thought, can I use it? Can I use it on my iPhone? It says the beta testing has expired. So I'll be coming to see you afterwards.
Please save all technical questions for all technical support for later, please.
Any other questions? Yes, a few here. One at the front.
شكرا. كنت قد سمعت في السنة الفارطة على تطبيق أمل، وحاولت منذ أول سنة هذه السنة 2018 تحميل هذه التطبيقة والعمل بها، ولكني حاولت عدة محاولات لدرجة أني يأست. يعني الآن وقد سمعت عن التغيرات اللي قمت بهم، هل يشمل ذلك جميع أنواع الهواتف ويمكننا الآن التحميل، أو مازال يعني هناك فما ديزيكسيبسيون؟ فما بالنسبة للسؤال الثاني هو للسيد كولين. فقط أود أن أعرف لماذا نسبتم المستوطنات التي وجدت يعني بعد ارتفاع منسوب الخط الساحلي، ارتفاع منسوب المياه وتقدم الخط الساحلي، لماذا نسبتموها كلها إلى الفترة اللولوسين، في حين أن الفترة البليستوسين يعني فيها فترات رطبة مثل تشابه تلك اللي في اللولوسين. الفايف إي هي مشابهة تماما لفترة اللولوسين، يعني فترة رطبة ونفس نفس كل شيء. على ماذا اعتمدتم لتحديد هذه الفترات؟ شكرا.
Okay, I think, sorry, yeah. I can start by answering the Amal stuff. Part of, do you have an Android phone or an iPhone? Oh, Samsung, yeah, Android. iPhones are almost all the same, and Android phones are all different. And so every time we have a problem with one of the phones, we fix it, but it may not fix it for every phone. And so the best thing that you can do is write us an email and give us some specifics about what phone you have, what you are trying to do, and we can make sure that we fix it for your phone. And then also if we need to get an extra phone for our test lab, test labs so that we can test it in the future to make sure that it works. So the more information we have, the easier it is for us to solve any problems that you have. Yeah. So write us an email.
Yeah, apologies. I should have been more specific in terms of the areas that I was discussing. So much of the submerged settlement that you saw in the imagery came from the northern region. So you're looking at different processes, and that's mostly associated with seismic activity. And this has come, the dating evidence there in terms of the Bronze Age has come from the key sea level indicators associated with change, geomorphological change in that particular area. The other element of it is that in the southern region, there's different processes within that area. So we have Neolithic submerged settlement of that, the countries south of Lebanon, for example. So it's just dependent on the area where you're at and the key indicators of change that we're looking at.
One more thing just to add. Thank you for being an early access user and giving us a try earlier in the year. Earlier in the year, we actually didn't have a mall on Android publicly available or available via the Play Store. So it's possible you could have filled out the form and been sent a link to install the application. Now, if you just on your phone go to the Google Play Store and search for Amal in Heritage, you will see a page for Amal and saying it's an early access program, and you can try and install it again. It's possible. You just need to reinstall. Yeah.
Just time for one final question, Abdurrahman.
I actually have 3 questions for Colin. The first question is, you said that the waters can be as shallow as the depth of the sea can be 10 meters. What is the risk of looting in such shallow water? The second question is, you showed quite extensive, like massive area. Do you have active network in those areas that you indicated in the map? The third question is, it's a bit confusing when you said that it's overland for 50 kilometers. Who do you imagine will be responsible? Is it, you have in the cultural heritage community, you have movable heritage, immovable, underwater, and now you have something in between. Who will be responsible for managing that heritage? Thank you.
Thanks for those questions. In terms of, looting to me is in very similar in the context of what Rand was talking about in terms of conflict. Looting, while it's a problem underwater, isn't the major problem. When we begin to start looking at fishing activity, for example, and dredging and trawling, most of the seabed, every square centimeter of the seabed is covered nearly every part of the year by continual fishing activity. Exploration activity is much more of an intensive impact upon the seabed. So yes, looting is an issue, but commercial development is a far bigger problem for us. In terms of your second question, or maybe your third question first, that notion of inland, why did we pick that figure? That figure has really come from coastal zone managers. In order to try and make this easier for themselves, most coastal zone management specialists will say that the coastal zone extends for about 15 to 25 kilometers inland. So that's very much an arbitrary figure for us. You're absolutely right. It's no basis in cultural fact. It's simply a management figure that we've plucked out of nowhere. And your mid-question, I've forgotten, was about... network, sorry, apologies. Yeah, so one of the key challenges, and one of the advantages for us in terms of working in partnership with AMENA is that we will hope to build on those existing partnerships that AMENA have been working with. We have already started integrating. Tomorrow I travel to Beirut to work with the Cultural Protection Fund training program that's working there. So we're introducing a maritime module into that, and a maritime module hopefully will be part of all future training programs. But we also have our own networks, but we would hope to begin a process of negotiation and discussion and introduction to all of those countries as well that are included in this area as part of our initial phases.
We're a bit out of time, actually. Okay, one quick question.
Will Amal work underwater?
Yes.
photography works underwater. Yeah, yeah.
Protecting the Past 2020, new version of them all underwater.
Okay, well, we have a new challenge for the ML team to end our discussion. So if you join me with a round of applause for our speakers. Thank you very much.